the backyard on May the 24th and how everything kind of started before I get to work. So as you can see, there's a bit of cleanup and clearing to do. The fluff from the trees, brutal for those of us with allergies. And clearing around what's going to be the sage bed. And thankfully, most of this is just easy to pull up, so I don't need to use my little shovel. And I like to use my big bucket. Sometimes I leave the weeds to sit there and dry out a bit so they don't take up as much space in the yard bags. And sometimes, like on this day, I'll just dump them into my composters. And it's always nice as I'm working that the little birds are, as you can see by some of the shadows, kind of touring by and hanging out at the feeders and the trees. And I love being able to hear them and just sometimes stop and watch as I'm working. So for me, it isn't just about clearing the yard and getting things prepared. I always find a variety of different insects, and I stop to bury the worms and other little insects that I find. And you can't see it right now because of the shrub, but there's an area that I'm clearing where the lilies are. And around my little pink rose bush, which has beautiful blooms on it now, on July the 18th. So I am glad that even though I deal with chronic pain and have for over a decade, I found a way to do what I love, which is yard work. Other people now call it earthing, but with some modifications, the right tools, I'm still able to do what I enjoy doing. Although this would have been a one-day project, and you'll understand what I mean with the other section coming up in the video, I've had to now spread it over several days because I have to take usually a day or two in between. And in the past, although I would have spent 7 to 8 hours in my yard just working away and getting things done, the reality of living with chronic pain is that now the maximum I can do is 3 hours a day. And again, as I said, usually having to take a day or two off. I noticed Woody as I was editing my video because, of course, as I'm working towards the pathway, I was busy with the work that I was doing, and Woody was busy getting birdseed. Every now and again there was some sounds that startled him. It wasn't me, and he'd kind of boogie back and forth, or she. I don't really know how to tell, but it was kind of sweet that Woody was out and about along with the birds as I was busy clearing the pathway behind the shrub. So as you can tell, I've speeded up the video just because I figured you didn't want to watch me puttering away bits and pieces, but I did want to keep in the sections with Woody. And now I'm just gathering up what I've cleared, and into the composters it goes. I realized when I was editing the video, I don't have the clip with moving the composter and the greenhouse frame for my tea roses, so that will be coming up in another video. And done for the day. My back brace, which isn't gorgeous but has metal in the back, ensuring that I don't bend the wrong way. Ornamental grass, which was a great idea at the time, but it spreads like crazy and is brutal to try and dig up. Lily letting me know she wants a plant saved and it's still in the yard, and she decided to supervise at a distance. You would have seen Lily before if you've seen my Sweet Pea video, one of the beautiful little ferals that we had to say goodbye to in December. And in the past, although I would have used a full-size shovel and been standing to get rid of this ornamental grass, it now means using a smaller shovel and sitting down. At the moment, I'm just sorting. There's bits of wood and some old broken down logs stumps that I need to move, so it's a bit of a project. And it took me about an hour in total. And of course, I do things by hand and try to take my time, because I'm also careful about looking for the insects. If I dig up worms, which is a good sign about the condition of the soil, but I make sure that I bury them again. But it's something that I enjoy doing, and even though it takes me longer now than it used to, I just love being outdoors and watching how the yard changes. So I'm grateful that I've found a way to adapt and still be able to do what I love. I may not be able to do it as quick as I used to, but at least I can get out and do it, and it's my happy place for sure. I decided to switch the camera angle just so that you can get an idea of what I'm doing, why I say this grass is brutal to get out. So it means using the earth a bit as a lever and give myself a bit of extra strength. So it's a matter of digging up the roots, keeping an eye for any insects or worms as I'm working. And like I say, in the past I would have used a big shovel and been standing, but you adapt and learn how to do things differently. And as I said, when I find insects, sometimes I need to move them. And he fell off the shovel, so now it's the big search. Where did you go, and how can I safely move you? And I get other people wouldn't spend this much time trying to find and move an insect, but to me it's super important. Ta-da! Okay, back to work. I like to use a little hand rake to go over where I've cleared, just to make sure that I've gotten all the roots and the different plants. And then on to the next section. And like I've said, this ornamental grass is definitely a project. And thankfully I got the bulk of it a few years back before I had to use my back brace, and that was a day-long project, and it definitely spreads everywhere. And almost done, just finishing up with the fork and gathering a few more things. And I haven't quite decided what I'm going to end up putting in this bed yet. I've saved the cardinal plants, which are the tall green ones. And in an upcoming video, I'll show them in bloom because they're much taller now. And I still have this bed to finish off, so I'm glad that, my yard's not in a rush and I can just take my time and think things through. The yard is very forgiving, and the animals and the birds are happy, and that's what matters to me. And packing up and getting ready to finish for the day. My bucket, and I'll let those dry out. Plants to move. And the bed that's still now July 18th waiting for me to decide what's coming in next. May 30th, I've done most of the work out front. I have the chives and buttercups, lamb's ears, creeping thyme, which is a lot bigger and in flower now on July 18th. The different stumps, the tansy just starting to grow. My iberis is done flowering. It was a splash of white. The artemisia, the beautiful yellow-green. I've moved the peppermint. And this is what the yard looks like June 25th. So you can see the shrub is in red. I need to look up the name for it, and I love it because it blooms twice a year. And as you can tell, this part of the yard is different from the beginning of the video. We had to take out a tree as it was shading out my white roses and my tea roses. And I've moved the garden frame so it now supports the tea roses. My composters are in behind that stump you see lying down. There's a snowflake sumac which spreads like crazy, and that's a lot of the babies you see. But I enjoy having it because although the blooms don't stay in the winter, the bees love it, and it's shelter for the birds around the gazebo section for them. I've moved the anemones. I have a little ajuga left to clear around the fire pit, which will also be moving. As you can tell, this section's still waiting. And I moved a couple of butterfly bushes from the back, so these three are all black knights, which I found are the best for attracting a variety of butterflies. And I love that each year we end up with some different ones. So that's the end of the work in May. And in an upcoming video, I'll be getting to what I did in June, what the yard looks like now, and I also need to find the clip, which is from May, when I actually moved my composters, so you can see why I enjoy composting and the soil that I've had, as well as setting up the garden frame for the tea roses. Until next time, have a great one.